Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood podcast.
And welcome to another episode of the Galactic Driftwood podcast. Once again, I'm filling in as in charge, or filling in for the role of captain this week, as Bill and Linda are currently still in Las Vegas enjoying their Star Trek convention. Joining me this week are my other co-hosts. If you want to introduce yourselves.
I'm Charles.
I'm Jenna.
I'm Chris.
All right. And this week we're going to be talking about a couple new shows. We're going to start off talking about the first two episodes of She-Hulk and our initial impressions. And then we're going to move on to Sandman. So, She-Hulk. Everyone's seen it here. So, what are your thoughts of the first couple episodes?
First episode, I have issues. I got nothing but gripes today. I'm sorry. I'm going to try and be a little bit positive, but I've got nothing but gripes. I thought She-Hulk was good, and I think it's going to be good. However, I've got some issues with their story writing a little bit, particularly in kind of her origin and how she became She-Hulk. I thought was a bit weak, and honestly, it kind of pissed me off. Because we're expected to believe, over a few droplets of blood, that somehow enough of the Hulk's condition or whatever from him gets transferred over, and then she magically, like, instantly gets transformed into a She-Hulk.
It's extra gammas.
Yeah, there's so many other ways that could have been tackled. I think in a similar fashion, it would have just been easier. Like she ends up having a really serious wound and needs a blood transfusion or something like that.
And that was the original.
Yeah, and so like
Was
that.
Oh.
Yeah, so they skipped that, and I don't know why. It was lazy, and I have a problem with lazy writing. I really do.
For you.
And so, yeah, that pissed me off. Now, end of my rant there.
Well, I want to say She-Hulk. When I was a kid, I had a friend that was in the comics first, and he must have had an extra She-Hulk or something, but I wasn't in the comic. He showed me the She-Hulk comic, and I took it home and read it. And I thought at the time, I don't think I understood. There might have been some comic humor, and there's probably some feminist parts I don't remember that I probably wouldn't have understood at that age. But I remember going back to him and going, well, this is proof the comics are stupid.
Oh.
It's just, there was no plot. And not only that, she was the Hulk the whole time. I think it was a special edition. So they didn't introduce her. It was just, she's She-Hulk. And she's beating up bad guys. And that's all there was to it. And
I gotta say, what more do you need, Charles?
well, at the time, it didn't fit what I thought was worth my time. I was probably too serious a kid. But it was, because I remember it was probably like a year or so later that I don't think it was him. Somebody showed me Wolverine, and I went, okay, well, this had some drama to it that I thought it as a kid was worth exploring. But She-Hulk as the first comic was not a good one. Probably if it happened in another order, I'd have appreciated it. But because it's hard to, have humor about comics if you haven't spent a lot of time in comics.
True.
Did you jump in the middle too of a plot? depending on what issue you get to. I could see that be really challenging.
Yeah, I think
because you
it
have
was
no
a
idea
special.
what's
I think it
going
was a
on.
special edition. Is probably one of the, it was it wasn't it wasn't what do you call it? It was a little bigger and it was more like a graphic novel style. You know, it was better binding and stuff. Yeah, it was a bizarre issue. So,
No.
but anyway, I was glad I watched the show though,
Yeah,
because I went, okay, there was, because in my mind it was just a boring comic. There was some, you know, with somebody enjoying drawing big breasts. But other than that,
You're saying that like it's a bad thing, man.
well, I know, but I just well, that wasn't. If that's your only draw, there's other magazines. But I watched the She-Hulk series and I go, well, okay, there were the two episodes the other day, and I go, well, okay, that was probably humor that I didn't understand, and probably from a point of view that I didn't understand at that age. So I'm glad I watched the two episodes. I'm not sure I'm going to watch it all the way to the end. But.
So in the first episode, as Chris mentions, we meet Jen Walters, and she's Bruce Banner's cousin. They're driving together in a car. They get in a car wreck, and he has some sort of device.
Can we explain the nonsense of the car wreck too? A spaceship randomly just stops in front of them in the road, causes them to spin out and crash.
Yeah,
So,
Aaron was pissed about that because he was like, "Who swerves away from that off a cliff?"
Yeah.
So that's, well, I mean, Jen was driving at the time, so she's probably not expecting spaceships and would have a much stronger reaction to it than Bruce. But yeah, they are a Sakaran spaceship appears in front of them, and Sakaar is the world where Bruce was, or the Hulk was the champion in Thor 3. So that's setting up something else. So it's
because he nonchalantly mentions like, "Oh, I better get back to that and figure out what they wanted," because they, you know, he's like, "Yeah, it's a messenger ship from Sakaar or whatever," and they kind of shrug that off. So I don't know, but
well,
Jenna, what were your thoughts? Like,
okay,
I can tell. Yeah, let Jenna go, and then I'll tell you what that's all about.
All right, so let's see where to start, because I want to bring up some examples of where I think there was a missed opportunity. But first off, say I like the humor. It's smart writing. It's smart dialogue. But I don't think, as progressive as this show should have been, that they went as far as they could have to make her look the part, the animation for She-Hulk. At minimum, like I'm sitting over at the image in the chat, she should have looked like Steffi Cohen. Steffi Cohen is an amazing weightlifter, female, but still feminine. Like, they could have rocked that. Like, I think she should have looked more like Steffi Cohen.
You wanted bigger and more muscles.
Yeah, or I should say not minimum Steffi Cohen. She should have looked like Steffi Cohen. Or at minimum, Holly Baxter Norton during peak week. Sorry. So who Holly Baxter Norton, she's known for weightlifting, but she's also a bikini model. Sending this image over to you to Seth on that side. Like, one of these two women, there shouldn't have been a problem. And that was some of the controversy. The animators faction just came forward and flat out said, we wanted to make her look more jacked. But it was either the producers, some suit was like, no, we need to soften it down. She's too
much masculinity in the decision making there.
Yeah. And
Seth, can you pull up that second one so people have a context of?
Yeah, like we shouldn't have been
what
afraid.
Jenna wants to see.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to see it too. Let's be real here.
All right, give me just a second here. I'm trying.
Especially Holly Baxter Norton, the second one.
Yeah.
Please and thank you.
Yeah, hold on.
And this is natural. She's a natural fitness model. She doesn't use anything. She's drug tested. So this is like legit hard work.
Bill's going to be
female.
sad he missed the episode where I'm showing bikini models on the episode.
Aussie bikini models. So yeah, no, we could have gone there. And I think it would have been a really positive image of, a muscular woman. Because
I agree with that.
We talk health, the whole Hayes movement, healthy at every size, and the plus size has been getting a lot of this is okay, but I think there's still some you're not feminine if you're muscular and you choose to take care of yourself in that way. So there was a missed opportunity there that even the animators were frustrated with, and I was right there with them.
I can understand that.
And I thought that the first episode especially, but going to the second episode too, it brought up this interesting dynamic. She said she wanted to save the world. And you see Jen's hypocrisy, because if the agency that was representing a dirtbag came and offered her a job, she should have known they're probably going to have her take on dirtbag cases. How is that helping the world? But then you see the argument, I don't mean to go political, but when you look at our vice president, who was a DA in California, and she was this is shown that she would do whatever it took to win her law cases, withholding evidence for people who could have been released. And people criticized her, like, do you want a woman representing that? Well, she was doing everything she had to do that any man would do, and a man would not have been criticized for doing the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
Well, not any man that would win.
Yes.
That's different.
So,
right.
We're not all like that.
So that's that's why that has to be overlooked with Vice President Harris.
Yeah.
So in the same way, Jen's character in the She-Hulk is doing the same thing. No one was hiring her. She had an opportunity and she took it. And she was going to try and make it work, and she justified it. So
she also cleared it with Bruce first. I mean, that seemed to be one of her bigger concerns, is that.
But this is one step. This is a slippery slope with this law firm. She knows it is.
Yeah.
So it's going to be. I think they've set it up to be a much more gray area for what Jen is doing, and I think that's going to make it really interesting. It just makes her character not, for me personally, not as instantly likable.
See, I thought I didn't really have a I don't know the She-Hulk character as well as some other people, so I was kind of pretty okay with her character, and I thought it was kind of like in the second episode what we saw of Neil Blonsky's Abomination, or the character, like there was actually a good point there.
No, absolutely. No, it was a great point. He was hired to do a job. He was highly decorated, and it was very interesting. What happens when you give basically the most uber steroids ever to someone who's going to try and succeed at all cost?
Yeah, and I mean, he had a good point. He was a decorated soldier, and the rampage that he went on would have been extremely out of character for him. Would he have done that if they hadn't shot him full of?
Well, I've got friends that are military that have, I know at least their first year back or whatever, and without steroids necessarily, but just from their training and being in a war area, there's stuff like they can't drive a car for a while because
Yeah.
they're used to running blockades or running into people if there's a loud noise, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not an unusual problem.
No, it's a conditioning thing.
Yeah.
And here's my thing, like, just because the character is not as likable to me, it doesn't mean it's not a good character.
No, it might be better.
And she's a good character who brought up some amazing points, like her argument why she can handle her anger better than Bruce is absolutely valid.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people
Yeah.
said it makes no sense that she would be able to take on the Hulk after Bruce took years of whatever. I think it definitely highlights in a very pointed way that a man does not have to control his emotions culturally in society as much as a woman does.
Yeah, there's apparently also more that's going to be coming out during the series. More on Bruce, in that the Hulk is at it. Like, the Hulk personality wasn't a result of his accident; it was a result of his childhood abuse.
Interesting.
So it was always there.
Yeah, it was
basically.
always there, but the accident brought it out to the forefront and gave it a form. And Jen doesn't have that, which is another reason why she can just zip between forms without.
That would make a lot of sense, and I
Yes.
do think that's pretty smart in the writing for that. So, I want to go into the plot a little bit. I have only watched the first episode, but I even had issues with near the end there, where the other I hate to call him a supervillain. I forget what the person's name is, but the person that busts in the courtroom like the Kool-Aid Man. Yeah, Titania busts into the courtroom like the Kool-Aid Man, right? And and they start having a brawl or whatever. But it was just, I don't know. I was trying to. I guess I expected more from like some kind of underlying plot, and I get where that first episode was a buildup of the character and where she comes from and how she became She-Hulk. And hopefully, it's clear in the second episode they start addressing more. But I guess I'm just looking for, does this series have an underlying plot? Like, what's the longer plot here? What's the tie-in, if anything, with other Marvel movies, if there is even one?
So,
what are we doing with this?
and I can't remember because we watched the first two episodes back to back. If it was, they even mentioned it might have been the second episode afterward. She was fleeing a traffic violation hearing. So I think even though it's a subtle justification why she suddenly popped into the court, it does set up why the law firm is looking to build this hero superhuman division, because you're seeing more of these exceptional humanoids, maybe they're not all humans, that are creating disruptions in day-to-day life. She's what is she? A social media superhuman star / superhuman is the way they described her. Fleeing a traffic violation hearing. So you're going to see more of these pop up, and they're trying to get ahead of the curve by having Jen come on.
Yeah. So this is, as far as where it's going, overarching plot wise, it's modeled a lot on Dan Slott's She-Hulk run, which Jenna actually gave me, and I've read most of, not all of yet, but it's very good. So if they follow that really exactly, it could go a lot of weird and fun places. So this may not be a huge block or a huge block in phase 4 going forward, but I think it's just going to be a fun show.
And I agree, and I'm having fun with it. I am. I don't know if I really like it yet, or whether my expectations of what this should be matched to what Marvel has released previously, and maybe that's just changing my expectations. So I full on planning watching it to the end. So I look forward to, when we regroup again, when the series is done, to kind of talk about it more, because I'm really looking forward to what they do. There was just little things I'm nitpicking at when it started out that I hope doesn't kind of carry on to the rest of the series. So we'll see.
All right. Well, as promised, that ship that shows up in the first episode is a Sakaran ship, and we see Bruce on a ship heading back to Sakaar at the end of the second episode, saying he's got unfinished business.
Okay.
So what this is looking like it's setting up is the World War Hulk story.
Okay.
So in that, we saw kind of the first part of that in Thor Ragnarok, where Banner got sent to Sakaar and he becomes this champion in or fighting in the Colosseum.
Mhm.
And so the second half of that, though, is that he had stayed on Sakaar and basically took it over in the comics and had a wife, had a kid on the way, was the happiest that he had ever been in his life, because he and the Hulk had kind of merged and worked something out. And then seemingly because of the heroes back on Earth, a bomb detonates, and he assumes that this was the Illuminati who had sent him there in the first place. So Reed Richards, Iron Man, Professor Xavier, they had all sent him to Sakaar in the first place. And then so his wife and his kid and a whole bunch of his people get killed seemingly by them, and he comes back to Earth to punch everyone to death. And it was one of the bigger comic events, because it huge event. He basically comes back to Earth with his other gladiator friends who he's put in charge, and they wipe the heroes out and basically capture them all and are making them fight in a Colosseum for him. And it comes down to him fighting Marvel Universe's equivalent to Superman.
So, and I think this is where another theme that they set up that could be they've maybe built that foundation for, is because Bruce is trying to coach Jen that, like, she's got to be a superhero now, and she's like, no, I don't. I can use this however I want in a way that's not a superhero, because why would you want me to be like you, with lost everything, no friends, alone? And it's really cruel. I mean, he has friends, obviously, but it's not the ideal life, I think, for anyone who cares about people. And I mean, because what was interesting is how it really highlighted his relationship with Tony Stark. Because if you noticed, when she looks at the helmet in his beach house in Mexico, it's the helmet that Tony died in. Like, so it's really set up that they were far closer than maybe even the movies made you realize. And it's probably been hard. I mean, he's lost a lot of people. Even if Steve Rogers is still alive and an old man somewhere, he's gone, Nad's gone, everyone's spread to the wind. And he's alone trying to deal with, what does it mean to be a hero? Or at least try and keep the world safe. But he really emphasizes to her, if you mess up, you're going to be a monster, and there's no way to undo that. It's really hard to undo that. And so if setting up for World War Hulk, he's continued to see as a threat that he has to be taken out just in case he ever becomes an issue. And then they really make him an issue, because just in case they try to take him out, because of that perception that once a threat, always a threat. Mm-hmm. I mean, it sucks, but they're really setting him up for that with those conversations with Jen in the early days of her training.
Well, yeah, I mean, if he goes back to Sakaar and the same stuff happens, he finds a wife, he has a kid, he becomes happy out there, and then someone on Earth screws it all up, yeah, you're looking at the Hulk coming back being a huge threat.
Yeah.
And what if that's how this series ends? Like, The whole that's kind of the B plot that becomes the A plot is the Hulk is over in Sakaar, being happy, making a family, ruling the place, and then someone on Earth does the same thing. He comes back, and the only one who can stop him maybe is Jen, trying to talk him down.
Yeah. But I mean, it really does bring up that with great power comes great responsibility. It's the theme that Stan Lee established throughout Marvel, and unfortunately, people fear power.
Right.
So the cost of looking after people tends to be the cost of your personal life by having these powers that everyone wishes they could have. So, I mean, it's like with Jen. She's like totally I almost said wrestling. She's totally wrestling with that Texas is coming out. She's totally wrestling with, should I just let those people die? Because I have student debt. How timely is that? I've worked so hard for my career, and now I revealed this side of myself, and no one wants to give me a job. It's not fair. I save people's lives, but why do I have to give up everything in my life for that? And some people may not like, and like I said, that's what makes me like, it's kind of not likable, because a part of me is old school. I do like some of the black and white, hero, villain dynamics, but it's still a good character arc. It's not maybe the most likable, but it's very good. And I think without getting up in arms and pissed off about episodes, especially where Marvel is going with this character, you should be able to discuss that. Yeah, it's not, I admit I don't like that aspect of that character, or it's not I don't like that character personally, but it's a good character. It's interesting. It is more realistic to what would happen if you had heroes in this day and age. Not the boys level.
Yeah. But that's another thing we need to talk about.
Yeah, at some point. But it's the middle of the road level.
That's fair. Well, we've already eaten up our whole 30 minutes talking about the first 2 episodes of She-Hulk.
I would say, Seth, let's recommend it to our audience to get their point of view. But if we did want to spend just a few more minutes on Sandman, I got the time.
Well, I think Sandman's big enough. We're just going to need to give it a whole episode.
It sounds like Chris has some ranting about that too.
Hot take. I think it's a piece of shit. But
wait to put the audience on the edge of their seat.
You are well within your rights to be that wrong, and that's fine.
I just, I have issues with it.
You better be. You had better be careful if you. I cannot guarantee what would happen if you said that to my wife. She might come at you with a knife.
That's okay. I'd rather take that fate so I don't have to watch anymore. I am gonna finish it though. Don't get me wrong. I've been going through it. I'm gonna finish it, but I don't know. Don't like it.
I am looking forward to hearing what you don't like about it.
A lot of things. A lot of things.
Yeah, no.
You're
sounds like
thoroughly in the minority right now, I think.
Yeah, that's fine. It's okay. I grew up being a minority. It's,
Zing.
Okay. I was hoping we would avoid the race card.
Shut up. You lie, Seth?
I knew what I was getting into when I said
I was like, oh, well, he walked into it. I guess I'll just, let's roll with this.
Oh, no, I set you up for that. Don't worry.
Don't get me wrong. So look, Sandman is worth a watch. There are things in there I don't like, and that's just me personally. And, I'm a few episodes in, and I still feel like I'm aimlessly kind of going around in the show. So I don't know what it is I'm looking for, but I haven't found it yet. And maybe that's a fault of the show, or that's something on me entirely. So I think probably the most pissed off I was the whole Lucifer versus Dream battle was the most ridiculous thing ever. So, but I hope, that we come to find something worth watching in the rest of the show. I'll leave it at that. We could talk more about it when we do a full episode. and I'll be less hot about how crappy I think that show is.
I hope so.
Don't tell Katie I said all that. You know.
Oh, I'm gonna.
She'll see it in the replay.
I'm gonna, and you're gonna. No, she won't. She doesn't watch the show.
I will say whatever I want then.
Oh, anyway, I think we can really look forward to talking about that one. In the meantime, yeah, check out She-Hulk. It's worth a watch if you've got Disney Plus, or if you've got a free month of Disney Plus. You've got a lot.
Not hard to get these days.
Yeah, you've got a lot of good stuff to watch. In the meantime, let's call it a show for now. So, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Remember, Galactic Driftwood is part of the Synergy Nation network, so you can check out our brother and sister shows like Weekly Geekly. Just go to synergynation.net, synnation.net, and give them a watch. And while you're at it, give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. We love it. We love to hear from people in the comments. So get in the comments. Come on. Anyway, that's it, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. As soon as I,
Actually, have to figure it out one of these days.
Yeah.
We got to get him to host more.
Yeah, apparently.
Got to do that. All right.
You need some more
Bye.
OJT, sir.
Bye.
Yeah, bye for real now. Bye.
Bye for real.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.